Hello, so welcome to another reading vlog. I'm starting this one straight after I finished the last one because we never stop reading, do we? Not in this house. So, what are my reading plans for the week? I have a big pile here. You will not be surprised that I'm going to continue trying to read the third volume of The Burning Stone by Kate Elliott. It's this epic fantasy with people fighting over the kingdom, dark magic, mathsy, astronomy magic, kind of these dragon people, a bunch of strange dogs, people turning to stone, all sorts of things. I do really enjoy it, but I'm so slow at reading it. I've got about 400 pages to go, so we'll see if I can at least make some progress this week. As well, I'm mostly going to be trying to read a whole bunch of short story anthologies. So firstly, I've got Pixel Juice by Jeff Noon. This one I've had on my TBR for about a million years, and it's a book that my sister gave me. It's full of like really short little weird stories. Well, that's what my sister told me. Then I opened it and I saw that it started with a prologue and it had chapters, and I doubted her, but I shouldn't have doubted her because I've now read the first 2 stories as well as that prologue. So the prologue was really just the author telling a story of him as a child and kind of showing how eager he was to believe in the fantastical. Then the first story was about this family going shopping in a city made up of shops. Like, there is no city other than the shops, and all the things they're buying are very strange and surreal. And that was really interesting. And then the next story was about these 2 friends having a conversation about another friend that they had in school who was really addicted to this sugary drink spook and trying to twist the cap to get all the different flavors. So all the stories so far have been really short, like only a few pages, but I have really enjoyed them, and I'm going to try and read some more. I'm just going to try and read one story at a time and see how we work through it. But I'm super relieved that I'm finally getting to that. As well, I started reading an ebook that I have on my phone. I don't often read ebooks, especially on my phone, but that's the only way I could get my hands on this one. So what I'm reading is Pūrākau, which is this short story anthology that's all retellings of Maori mythology, and I think all the authors are Maori authors. So far I only really read the introduction and the prologue. The prologue was this story, kind of like a creation myth, but sort of a creation myth of stories. It had a lot of really interesting things to say about how important stories are, but there was one part that was really interesting about like how you have to open yourself up to stories, and you do that knowing there's a risk that they might put awful ideas in your head. Like, you open yourself up hoping that they'll put great ideas in your head, but you don't know when you open yourself up to them. Anyway, I really enjoyed that story, and I'm gonna continue to read these stories kind of one by one as well. I guess I'll read a short story and then I'll do something else that I'm supposed to be doing because there's a million of those things. And then as well, I have the audiobook for Magic for Liars by Gailey, which I started listening to last night. I feel like I'm reading about 50 things at the moment, all at the same time, but I started reading Magic for Liars last night, and I really love the tone of it, and I think the audiobook narrator is doing such an amazing job. So we're following this woman, and she's like a private investigator, but her twin sister went to magic school and is now a teacher at this magic school. But there was a murder at this school, and she has been brought in to try and investigate that murder. And she's also got all these weird feelings about, like, what if I had been the one to go to magic school? But at the same time, like, this visit to the magic school is really her first exposure to a lot of the world of magic. So I'm really enjoying that. As well, I feel like that's enough for this week. I keep making overly ambitious reading plans. However, I'm not gonna stop. I also would kind of like to read The Time Machine and other stories, because this is also short stories. So shouldn't I do all my short stories in one week? No, probably not, but would I like to? Yes. I might try and find this on audiobook. I think I probably wouldn't have time to read it in physical form, but if I could find the audiobook, then maybe. And this, if you don't know, is like a classic time travel story, as well as some other short stories by the same author. Science fiction, to summarize. I mean, I haven't read it, so I don't really know, just like most of these books. As well, what am I doing? I also have the audiobook for Remote Control, which I read last week. And if I had time, I kind of like to read it via audiobook. So I read it physically last week, but I also have the audiobook from the library, so like maybe I want to reread it. I really think it's the kind of book where a reread would really be worthwhile. So I might do that as well. I guess we'll see. Good morning! I had to get up at my first alarm this morning and I was not happy about it, but I'm here for my infusions. Every 6 weeks I go to the hospital, I get an infusion. It's like a few hours sitting with a drip in my arm and it helps to keep me alive. Yay. So reading wise, while I had to drive over here, it's like a half-hour drive this morning because the traffic was so bad. But while I was driving over, I listened to Magic for Liars. I'm really enjoying it. We're learning a lot more about some of the students and also her relationship with her twin sister, who's this magic teacher that, you know, their relationship kind of broke down when her sister got to go off to magic school and she felt like nothing really happened in her life. So I'll continue listening to that while I walk to the hospital, and then probably I'm going to do some chores and stuff afterwards, go shopping. Why not? As well, last night I read quite a few stories in Pixel Juice, maybe like 50 pages in. 60 pages in. The stories are all really strange, most of them pretty short. There was one really weird one about, I guess, the philosophy of suicide, so trigger warnings for suicide, but I did find the ideas are quite interesting. And some other weird stories like about children who are allergic to particular letters and writers who get letters delivered to them every day, and just all sorts of really strange stories. I'm really enjoying it. I'm also starting to see that maybe some of the stories are connected, so I'm not sure if that's just that he happened to write stories with some similar things in them, or whether there's going to be a lot more connections that I should be keeping an eye out for. But I'm taking this into my infusion, so I'll try and read some of it in there. I do also need to do a little bit of work while I'm there, but hopefully that won't take me too long and I can spend most of my time reading. As well, last night I did read 2 of the short stories from Pūrākau. One was kind of the story of what's her name? Papatuanuku, I think. So this is the Earth Mother, and the Maori creation myth is basically the Earth Mother and the Sky Father were suffocating their children between them until Tāne Mahuta forced them apart. And so this story was kind of like a modern take on that. This woman who has separated from her husband, and she thinks that her children, her boys, were kind of the cause of that, and just thinking through that was quite interesting. And then there was a story about Tāne Mahuta that was a little bit sexually explicit. It was basically about him creating the first woman. And that was an interesting story as well. I think I almost started the next one and it looked like poetry, and that intimidated me a bit, so I didn't start it yet. But maybe I'll read some more of that sometime today as well. I had the best intentions to be super productive when I got home this afternoon. However, I've just had a really amazing nap. Does that count as productivity? Not really, but it was enjoyable. And I did go shopping after my infusion, so I bought myself a dress for the wedding that we have to go to on Saturday. I'm not a great fan of weddings during the pandemic, but that's what we're doing. And also, I played some Animal Crossing, and while I did that, I've listened to almost all of Magic for Liars, and honestly, I've got about an hour of actual listening time left, and I think I just want to finish listening to it because I really want to know what's going on. I'm really interested in the murder investigation, and I'm really interested in the relationship between these 2 sisters, and there's also a love interest who I don't trust at all, so I'm waiting to see if maybe I'm just being paranoid and he's actually a nice guy, or is he the bad guy? I mean, there's not many clues that it's him, but I don't trust him. So I think I'm going to finish that before I get into doing anything else too productive. Maybe I'll tidy my house while I finish listening to that. That's productive, right? As well, I don't even know where I put it. Pixel Juice. I only got up to like page 100 during my infusion, and that's because the short stories that I was reading while I was there, I didn't like them at all. There was one quite long one about this junior pimp, so a boy who became a pimp when he was 10 years old, and it was so pointless and didn't really like address any of what was going on, and I don't understand the point. And like compared to all the stories before that, which were investigating really interesting ideas and like really nice little short stories, it just wasn't what I was hoping for. And then there was another story which sort of seemed like it was trying to be Sailor Moon anime styles, but I kind of skimmed it because, again, it didn't really seem to have much of a point. But I am now up to part 2, so hopefully we'll get some more good stories, I guess, when I get back to it. Oh, also, I have a package, and I think I know what it is, but I thought I'd open it with you just so that we can all enjoy what I think is a lovely book. Almost got it all the way. Almost, but never. Okay, so we have Words of Radiance, a beautiful copy with beautiful pictures. Oh, look. There's Shan doing her art. Ooh, and the naked book is kind of pretty too. It's interesting to see the colors of all the naked books, because I'm pretty sure Way of Kings was blue, right? Anyway, this also has all the sketches, all of Shalon's sketches. Here's one. These are my favorite editions of the books. I'm buying them all so that I can reread the series. This one is actually funny because I ordered it like, I feel like it was maybe even the end of January, and then I waited weeks for it to show up, and it did not show up. And then eventually they emailed me saying, oh, we've realized we can't get it in, so we're refunding you. And I looked on their website and it was still on their website, and I said, couldn't you just send it to me since it's still on your website? And they said, oh no, it's a new supplier. We still have to refund you, but you can order it again if you want. So I ordered it again, and now it's turned up, I think, a few weeks later than that. So sometimes it takes a while to get books in New Zealand, and that's why I kind of laugh when people complain about not getting new releases on the day of the release, because that's not my reality at all. I can't even get old releases within a couple of months. Anyway, I'm excited to own this book, and now that I've received this, I can buy Oathbringer as well. I've been buying one at a time just because, like, I feel that makes it seem like less of a splurge, even though I'm still spending the same amount of money altogether. But maybe I get to spread out the enjoyment as well, right? Hello, so quick update before I have to head off to this wedding. Honestly, I don't know how I used to be productive every day after going into the office, because at the moment, one day in the office just totally kills me. But anyway, I have managed to do some reading. So firstly, I did finish off Magic for Liars, and I absolutely loved it. I loved the way that the student story came together with the adult story, and the way that this detective's sister was involved in things. It was all very clever, and I just really loved the tone of the writing. Although the narration was so amazing that I can't decide, is it the writing or the way it was delivered? But I really loved it. I would say for this, trigger warnings for cancer and abortion, so be careful of that. But I do definitely recommend it. Talking about how the audiobook was really amazing. So after I finished that, I decided to pick up the audiobook of Remote Control, which I read last week, and I really loved that as well. However, the audiobook, I hated it. I had heard that the audiobook was really amazing. However, as soon as I started listening to it, I was like, isn't this the audiobook narrator from The Power by Naomi Alderman, which again I read a few weeks ago, and I looked it up and it is, and I didn't like that audiobook either. And I don't know what it is. I spent most of the time I was listening to this audiobook, it's only like 4 hours, but the time I spent listening to it, I was mostly just trying to work out what it is about the way she narrates that just turns me off. Because I loved Remote Control as like a written book, but the way that she delivered it, I hated it. I was not engaged in the story at all. And I know it was a reread, so maybe it was less interesting for that reason. But I was really excited to go back and re-listen to it and pick up on things that I hadn't picked up on in the first read, and I did pick up on some things, but still I was just so annoyed with the way she was delivering the story. It was nothing like what the story was like in my head, which is just really interesting how different people can interpret a story. Anyway, as far as written books go, I read one more story of Pixel Juice. I'm really sad because I feel like if the stories had continued like they begun, I would have been just rushing through this, but because of those crappy ones, I'm enjoying it less. I've only read one more story, and it was another one all about these bugs, and No, didn't really see there was much point in that one either. However, I have read a couple more chapters of this, and some of our characters are gonna have to trust this guy who we definitely don't trust. He wants to try and use these magical stones as a way for them to escape something that they need to escape, but can we trust him? I don't know. I don't think so, but maybe? Anyway, as well, I've read a couple of stories of Pūrākau. I think both the ones I read since I last talked to you were ones based around the myth of Tāne Mahuta. So Tāne Mahuta is the god of forests and birds, and he is the one who initially pushed apart the Sky Father and the Earth Mother, and he's also the one who created humanity according to Maori mythology. So the first story was kind of told from his perspective, and he was very lonely, and it led to him creating the first woman. Then the second story was kind of the same myth but set in a modern context. And it looked a lot more at the fact that Tāne Mahuta created this first woman, had children with her, and then pretty much just got rid of her and then had relationships with the children, and it's a bit gross when you put that into a modern context. So the story in the modern context was actually quite traumatic, but it also made me interested to learn more about the mythology of this first woman, because she then became the goddess of death, who welcomes all her children to her at the end of their lives. So I really enjoyed that story, actually. I think that is everything. I better go, because if I am late to this wedding, I will be in trouble. But I will see you guys soon.
I'm scared to lose myself or to go out. And all my shadows, they just don't know where to go.
Hello, so it's Monday. We stayed up way too late after that wedding on Saturday night, and then Sunday, well, I had quite a few naps. Now it's Monday, end of the day. I finally got the motivation together to film my February wrap-up. It's very late, but I guess that's what's happening this month. As far as reading goes, so there's only 2 things that I've made progress on. I read some more short stories from Pūrākau. The ones that I read were based around the mythology of Maui. I really liked the introduction just to the concept of Maui and the fact that he's like this larger-than-life character, and there's so many contradictory different stories about him. Then there was this very strange story. It kind of had this post-apocalyptic vibe, but it was the story of Maui's mother and his sister, and how Maui was born premature, and how they kind of wrapped him up in his placenta and threw him in the ocean, trusting that he would come back when he was fully grown. That's the mythology of Maui. Anyway, it was very strange, but I kind of liked it. The next one was Maui Goes to Hollywood, and I kind of hated it. It was this guy who was kind of a sports hero, and then he became some kind of cosplay guy. Anyway, I didn't like it, so that was a shame. The first story in this anthology that I haven't liked. And then there was a little poem after that, which I kind of liked. It wasn't really about Maui, actually. I just had a look at it. It's only a few pages long, so I can read it again, but it's kind of about the strength of women. Anyway, the next section says it's about Tāwhaki and Rata. I don't know this mythology, so I guess it will be interesting to read those ones whenever I get to it. As well, while I was driving around in the weekend, I did start reading The Traveling Cat Chronicles by Hiro... hang on. Arakawa. Hiro Arakawa, probably. Actually, Hiro Arakawa. Oh my goodness. Sometimes, I want to pronounce names properly, but my tongue just cannot put the different syllables together. And I try to have compassion for people struggling with English, because I know how hard it is sometimes to make your tongue do unfamiliar things that other people think would be easy. Anyway, I started reading The Traveling Cat Chronicles. I picked this up because I heard that it had a talking cat in it. I just realized I forgot to talk in my February wrap-up about that ruined talking cat. Anyway, this talking cat, like the other Japanese book that I read the other day, If Cats Disappeared from the World, this talking cat, it's not a talking cat, this one, but the voice that the narrator does in the audiobook is also with a British accent. Why do people keep giving cats British accents? I don't know what it is, but I hate it. I don't want cats to have British accents. I don't know why that seems wrong to me, but it seems wrong. Like, cats are snobby, yes, but not in a British way. I mean, maybe British cats are, but these are Japanese cats. Japanese cats should not have British accents. And I also think, like, that snobbishness that they're kind of putting on is not quite the cat kind of snobbishness. So that frustrates me. Also, this story, like, it says it's a book from a cat's perspective, but it's actually telling a story of this cat's owner and how he met all his different school friends in these ways that related to different stray animals. And those little stories about these schoolboys doing things, those aren't told from the cat's perspective. I can tell because the audiobook narrator doesn't do the stupid British accent. He only does the British accent when it's like the cat actually saying something. Not that the cat talks, but the cat talks to himself and he talks to other dogs and cats. And like, I'm not hating it, but it's not the cat story that I was hoping for going into this. It's more just a story showing how all these different people are connected and how this main owner has kind of always been very positive despite a lot of traumatic things happening to him. And we also know at the moment he's trying to find someone to take care of his cat because something has happened, but we still don't know what. So I am interested to find out what has actually happened here. I expect he's going to keep the cat because otherwise I'm going to be annoyed. I do think I'd probably enjoy this book a lot more if I wasn't listening to the audiobook and I didn't have to put up with the cat having a stupid British accent. I probably just need to get over that and enjoy the story that it actually is. It's probably fine. But I'm about halfway through, so we'll see if by the end of it I can get over the British accent. Anyway, I'm probably going to continue this vlog until the end of the week, and hopefully I can finish all these things that I'm reading off. Traveling Cat Chronicles, Pixel Juice, Pūrākau. I mean, I'd still also like to finish these, but that's optimistic, isn't it? Especially because the rest of this week I have to go into the office every single day, and we know that that kills me, so we'll see if I survive. I just cried at the end of the Traveling Cat Chronicles, which is why my mascara is all running under my eyes. The ending was very sad. I saw it coming for ages though, but still sad. There was also like, it's kind of like a twist near the end, and initially the twist is just like, oh, okay, and then there were quite a few details where I was like, oh, but then it moved on, but it was just a bit which seemed very intense in a way that didn't really suit the rest of the story. But the ending was very touching with this guy and his relationship with his cat. As I said, made me cry. I still don't know if I loved it, but I can see why a lot of people do like this book. It's probably not exactly what I'm looking for when I'm looking for a book from a cat's perspective, but I thought it's still a good story. I still enjoyed it. I don't know what I'm going to give it. Maybe 4 stars. Maybe. As well, last night I read another chapter of Pūrākau, and this one, the first story was about this homeless guy who was essentially this god of lightning. What was the second story about? Oh, the second story was about this guy named Rata, and I actually remember hearing the myth when I was younger. So it's basically this guy who keeps trying to cut down this tree, and then every day when they go to get it, it's regrown itself, and it's because he's not doing the proper respect to the god of the forest. So it was good to be reminded of that myth. And the next chapter is called Moon and Mist. So I'm excited about that because I like the moon and I like the mist. So hopefully I will like those. Hello, so it is now Saturday, and thanks to time zones, Becca's Bookopoly readathon is imminent, about to start. So I think I'm going to finish up this vlog so that I can start my next vlog. I'm kind of sad because I don't think I finished any of the short story anthologies that I picked up this week, but actually I ran this vlog for 2 weeks, so like my reading plans for 1 week I didn't get done in 2 weeks. never mind. I did read Magic for Liars, which I really loved. And also one thing that I did read in the last couple of days while I was commuting is I read the audiobook of Allies of the Dawn, which I think is the 9th book in the Cirque du Freak series. Honestly, those books are so short, and I'm going to try and wrap up the series during the Bookopoly readathon, so I'll probably just talk about it more there. But I am enjoying it. And hopefully maybe I can finish those short story anthologies during Bookopoly or next week. I don't know. Anyway, either way, thank you for hanging out with me these last couple of weeks with my reading. Let me know if you've read any of these books. I don't know whether I've read anything. Maybe Magic for Liars is the only one that maybe other people might have read. Anyway, I really do have to go because I am doing everything last minute these last few days. I hope that everything's going well with you. See you later.